Hey there, my name is Gina and I am Hippie Happy Homeschooler. Welcome to my channel. If you are new to my channel, I have been homeschooling for 6 years now. This is my 6th year. I have 4 kids, 2 that are boy-girl twins, ages 16, and then I have a 14-year-old daughter and a 11, almost 12-year-old daughter. And so we have a 9th grader, a 6th grader, and 2 juniors this year. And one of the favorite parts of our homeschool is our read aloud time together. We've been doing this consistently since the very beginning. Some people call the read aloud time morning time, or morning subjects, or family subjects. I did another video a couple of weeks ago where I shared all of the family subjects that we do today, or do together, but this time I just want to focus solely on the read alouds that we have done over the past 6 years, as well as a couple new ones that we're going to enjoy this year. It is by far the most powerful time that we have together in our homeschool, whether it be a group study read aloud or one-on-one. We have various different types of read alouds going throughout the day. So in the morning time, we have several that we do together with all ages. And then I have usually 1 or 2 read alouds with my 9th grader, 1 or 2 with my 6th grader, and then I try to keep having 1 or 2 going with my 11th graders, whether it be Shakespeare or an epic poem or kind of a compelling, more challenging read or thought-provoking. So right now what I want to share with you is the ones that we've already read and what categories I would maybe place them in, so that you can kind of be thinking of these things when you're planning out your year, or if you have a certain topic that you're trying to go over with your children, or that you want to reinforce, or there's a historical time period that you want to share with your kids through the power of story. Some of these books are historical fiction, some are biographies, some are missionary stories, some are just classics. I also have some thought-provoking reads that are, they can go as deep as your child is able to, but definitely gets those wheels turning. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hop right in. The first stack, let's see, where will I start? Well, I'll start here with Trumpet of the Swan. This is one of our favorite read alouds. It's for ages, I think it's 8 to 12. But we read this in our first year of homeschooling, when I had, at the time, a 1st grader, a 3rd grader, and 2 6th graders. And this was just a family beloved book, so much so that my now 9th grader was like, I just want to read it again for fun. So it's a really powerful story about really dealing with if you have a deficit, what the world would call a deficit, and turning that into something powerful. How all of us have something that maybe is, in the world's eyes, something that's not working properly, but how, God doesn't make mistakes, right? So there can be ways to troubleshoot the areas in our life that are harder for us to navigate, whether it's a learning disability or a physical disability or an emotional thing or some kind of a limitation. This book, I don't know, it just really speaks to that, of all of us have things that make us different. And it's just a powerful read, and it's well written, and it's a family classic in my opinion. So I highly recommend this one. The other one, everyone knows Mary Poppins, but some people don't know that there is actually 4 books in a series. This is the first one by P.L. Travelers, and there's 4 more. They come in you can get them in a box set. I do have the box set, but I just brought this one up for time's sake, just brought this first one. So here's another family read aloud. I read this to my daughter when she was in, she's in 6th grade now. So when she was in 4th grade, I read it to her with a family group that had two other daughters. One at the time was in kindergarten, and then there was a fourth grader and my fourth grader, and it was perfect for their age group. They understood it, and one of the things that we did to celebrate when we were done was we had a tea party. If you remember the movie, they do an upside down tea party on the ceiling, and so we just kind of did that to celebrate, and that was super fun. I love doing book parties whenever my kids and I finish a book that's, you know, really special to us. Especially if there's some kind of a food element in the story, we try to pick out whatever the food elements were in the storyline and kind of try to mimic that in our home. So that's something that you can do. That's something that we did with the Chronicles of Narnia series. This one is the Magician's Nephew, but as you know, there's 7 books total in the series. So when we read the second one, which was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, we put together a feast with Turkish delights and tea and sort of, again, another tea party. That's kind of our theme, but we tried to make it real special and sort of magical and Narnia-ish. And we even made little signs that were reflective of the characters, and we put out a nice blanket and some cozy pillows and turned the air down to make it a little bit frosty in the house. We live in Florida, and so sometimes we have to work harder at feeling cozy. But that was one of the things that we did when we read the Chronicles of Narnia, the second book, and Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then we watched the movie as well. So there's that one. Another type of read aloud that I enjoy using is the Usborne. The Usborne book company has different books like this, where it's the complete Dickens or the complete Jane Austen or the complete Greek myths or the complete Shakespeare. And so we're really in a Dickens phase right now. We have been for the past probably 2 years. We read the original Christmas Carol, not the adapted version, but the original, and Oliver Twist and Pickwick Papers. And right now we are currently in Tale of Two Cities, which this is the actual Tale of Two Cities. And I talked about this in another video, but along with, we're actually doing it on audiobook, but along with doing the audiobook, we're using this book as sort of a book to help them catch up to speed if there's any parts in the audiobook that are not sticking, because sometimes the way that Dickens writes can be a little bit challenging, especially with the audiobook. It kind of moves a little bit fast, and so I don't want anything to be lost on them. And so I have found this adapted version of Dickens' tales is just excellent for pulling it all together. So we've done that with all of the stories that we've read so far, and it's just been powerful. And what I love about this this book is that it has really captivating illustrations, and there's also, as you can see, they give you a full rundown of the most prominent characters in the stories, and with their pictures drawn and a little narrative of who they are in the story. And that's been really helpful for keeping the kids on track. So this is another favorite. We also use this, the Complete Shakespeare, for introducing a Shakespeare play before we get into it. I will do another video on how we do Shakespeare in our home, but we use a couple of different things to sort of pull together a play so that they really remember the play and it sticks in their mind. And this is one of the things that we do very first before we begin reading the play. We read the Usborne Shakespeare adaptation of it, and it just helps them wrap their head around what the story is going to be about before they get into the really flowery language that's kind of at times can really become a lot for, you know, a 10-year-old. So the next book, this is a series, the Penderwicks. This is our favorite, one of our absolute favorite books. It's about a family with a dad and 5 daughters. He's a widow, and it just follows their family story, their adventures together, him having raising children on his own, and just a really special family read. I think any family, especially big families, can really relate to this book because there's so much going on at all times with the girls, and they have a cute little dog named Hound, and it's kind of chaotic. And I know for us, our family started reading the Pandora Series back when my kids were a little bit younger. It took us a while to get to the second book. There's 4 books total because we had other pressing reads. So we read the first book, I think, in our second year of homeschooling, and now here we are in our 6th year, and we're finally in book 2, and we're almost done with book 2, and we're going to hop into book 3 in the new year. So, but it has just been, it's funny. It's very fast moving. The language is very easy to understand. And I find it to be kind of like a brain break for my kids after we've read some of the harder read alouds or harder historical books or harder lessons that we do in family time. They look forward to it. Whenever I give them an option, which book do you want to end with today? It's usually Penderwicks. So that's a great one. Another book that I love is My Side of the Mountain. We read this, so this is ages 8 to 12, and just to be honest with you, I really don't pay attention to age ranges a lot, just simply because I feel like a good book is a good book. Whether it's a chapter book, a picture book, or some heavy, weighty book, like Tale of Two Cities that's pretty thick. A good book is a good book. If it's a genuinely good author, putting good content and good thought and good ideas and causes the children to really think, and a character that changes, then to me it's a good book. And so we read this back when my kids were a little younger. I think my youngest was in 3rd grade when we started this one. So that would have made my oldest kids in 8th and my middle in around 6th or something. But it says 8 to 12, and it's a really good read. It's about a boy that he's not happy living in New York City, and he ends up going to the Catskill Mountains. He runs away, and he kind of lives off grid alone. And I think he's about 13, and it talks about plants and how he survived and all of the food that he finds and how he navigates life by himself. And it's very adventurous, and it's a great nature read as well, because he goes into great detail describing different types of plants and animals and berries, and it's the way that it's written makes it very interesting to learn about those natural elements. So that's a great read. Another one is Tale of Despereaux. This book is so fun. It's Kate DiCamillo. She wrote Because of Winn-Dixie. You might know her from that book. We love that book as well. My daughter, who's now in 9th grade, she read that book a couple years ago, and we did a Because of Winn-Dixie movie party together and got some food that she had in the movie, and it was super fun. And we did that with this movie too, The Tale of Despereaux. I think we did French food because I believe it's set in France. I'm pretty sure. It's been a couple years. It's been like 3 years since we've done this book. But anyways, this is really cute. Let's see, what else do we have? Okay, so this is a classic. This is The Complete Tales of, show you the picture because you'll know, Winnie the Pooh. I love Winnie the Pooh. I think that these stories are often profound, and the characters, you can find yourself in the characters. And so this is one of those read alouds that I do at nighttime with my younger 2 kids. I mean, they're not babies, they're 6th and 9th grade, but they still love for me to read to them at night before they go to bed. And so we always have 1 or 2 read alouds going at night. And Winnie the Pooh is one of those that I'll pull out every once in a while. It's not a constant thing. It might be like once a month. I'll be like, let's bring out Winnie the Pooh tonight. You know, we have other ones that are more consistent, but it is just, I love the chapters are not long and they're just great stories and very nostalgic. So love that. Next, I can't not talk about Little House on the Prairie. This is my absolute favorite read aloud series of all time. I remember when I was a kid and my grandmother bought me a Laura Ingalls Wilder set just like this. It was the most magical thing, and I read them over and over and over. And so I've carried on that tradition with my kids. As a family, we read Little House on the Prairie and we read The Long Winter together. I have continued at nighttime reading the entire series with my younger 2 girls because they're just more interested in it than my older kids. So right now we're on the banks of Plum Creek, and we're really enjoying that right now. So there's that. The other read alouds that I have done at nighttime with my girls is Anne of Green Gables. We took about a year to get through this because we read it really slow. We just loved it and we wanted it to last, and we milked it. And then we had, you guessed it, a tea party, Anne of Green Gables tea party. And we had, you know, raspberry cordial tea, and we made some beautiful tea sandwiches and wonderful desserts that were reflective of the story. And we watched it's like a 1980s version of Anne of Green Gables, and it was so special. I want to go back and start over and reread and then do the movie again and do the tea party again. But we need to move on because I think there's 8 books in the series, and so we need to move on. Anne of Avonlea is Avonlea? Is that how you say it? That one's next. Next is Heidi, another beloved classic. We love this. We're about halfway through it right now. So when this one is done in a couple months, we'll probably curl up with some bread and cheese and, you know, cozy types of foods that are mentioned in this book. And I apologize if you can hear the noise. My kids are banging on the piano downstairs, but I'm not going to stop the video for that because it's real. It's real life. So this is Heidi. There's that. Next. Okay. A few more serious books. So this series by Laurie Halsey Anderson is the Seeds of America trilogy. The first one is Chains, the second one is Forge, and the third one is Ashes. We had started this when we were studying the American Revolution, is probably around the time when we started adding this into our read aloud time to kind of bring it forward, all of the ideas of what were happening in that time frame. And it follows a 12-year-old girl who is a slave, and her sister gets taken away from her, and there's just a really powerful plight for her to go find her sister, but she's restrained in her circumstances, and it really gives a vivid picture of what would have been experienced during that time frame. So that was a really excellent read, and we read Chains last year. We're going to get into Forge this year, and then I plan to close the third book next year. Another book by Laurie Halsey Anderson is Fever, 1793. It follows the story of the true yellow fever that took place in 1793, and it's powerful. You feel like you're living it with them, and it's a very serious topic, and I just highly recommend it if you're studying that time period, it just really brings it to light what everybody was going through during that time period. So that was another one. Another category that we do regularly is we do the YWAM missionary stories as a family. And then I also assign one to each child individually for one per year. So one per year for each child, and then we go through several together throughout the year with morning time. And just a couple of the ones that we've read, I will go through another video where I go through all of the different ones that we've hit so far and what we plan to hit this year. But last year, Abraham Lincoln, fascinating, beloved, beautiful story, humbling, it's just a powerful read about his upbringing and just the humble place that he came from. And the kids just really were taken with it. We were studying the Civil War period at that time period, and so this was a beautiful book to be reading along with that. Eric Liddell, that was a wonderful story. He was an Olympian who went to China and served as a missionary. Again, my kids loved it, and it's that movie Chariots of Fire was inspired by his story, and it follows his story. We didn't love that movie as much as we loved the book, but we still watched it because it was a way to celebrate, hey, we're done with this book. Next is Louis Zamperini, and he was another Olympian. He also fought in World War II. Powerful, probably our most favorite yet. And I feel like we say that every time we do a read aloud of this, of the YWAM series, but this one was our last one and it was our absolute favorite. And the movie that follows this is called Unbroken. It's a movie that was done based 100% on this story. They released it in 2014, so it's a very recent movie and it's incredibly well done. Like it follows the story to a T, except it doesn't share the part about how he gets saved, because Hollywood probably didn't care about that part, and you probably know why. But nonetheless, it was still a very inspiring movie. My kids held tight through the entire 2.5-hour movie. So there's that. Next, last year we read this book by Alan Gratz. It's called Refugee. It follows 3 different families who are seeking asylum in America from their communist upbringing in different countries. And it follows 3 different time periods. One follows the World War II, follows a Jewish family. Another one follows a family from Syria in 2015. And then the other one follows a family, let me see if I can find it because it's been a little bit, Isabel from Havana, Cuba in 1994. They're not necessarily true 100% accurate historically as far as the family names and all of that, but these would be very similar of many people experiencing these different events. So I would call it historical fiction, true things happening, just different names and probably different stories gathered to, compile one person's story from Cuba, one person's from Syria, and one from Germany. So this was excellent, and it was so good that I decided to pick up this one called Grenade, and this one is a World War II inspired. And so because we're getting ready to go into World War I, World War II, I thought when we get to World War II, we're going to go ahead and use this as one of our read alouds because he's a fantastic author. I love the way he writes. It brings everything together for the kids, and it really gives them a clearer picture so that they feel like they understand it greater. Another one that we're going to do this year, I'm going to do with my 6th grader. It's called Jane and Henry, a World War II adventure. This is a Good and the Beautiful. I'm not sure if it's an original. Yes, it's an original publication from The Good and the Beautiful, I think. This is by Rebecca Borger. And we really love The Good and the Beautiful. We love the books that they put out. They're very well thought out. They're beautiful. The storylines are excellent. The writing is well done and just full of truth, goodness, and beauty, and which is what we try to base our entire homeschool around, is things that are full of truth, goodness, and beauty. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, this series is so fun. I don't know if you've ever seen these. You can probably order them online. These are old, as you can see. They're very tattered. I think we got these at a thrift store, but I like to use them when we're studying a particular country. So when we're going into World War II, we're going to be studying this one, Mitz and Fritz of Germany. I also have the Wee Scottish Piper, Little John of England, Sean O'Day of Ireland, and I also have one of a little boy from Italy. I can't remember the exact name. And then just a couple more left, and then I'll be done for today. This one is called Rickshaw Girl. I did this one with she's 6th grade now, but she was in 5th grade when we did this together. And it's a really special book about a little girl from, let's see, where was she from? I want to say she was from Afghanistan. And it follows her story of her father owning a rickshaw and something that takes place that happens to the rickshaw and how she ends up doing something that improves it. I'll just put it that way. I don't want to ruin it for you, but it's a really sweet story. There's another book that we read that was a read aloud that my kids absolutely loved, and I don't have it any longer, but it was I Am Malala. And if you have heard of her story, it's powerful. It's about a girl who lives in Afghanistan during the time when I believe the Taliban came in and would no longer allow the girls to go to school and learn. And she really fought for education alongside of her father, and something tragic happened to her, but something great came out of it as well. And my kids loved that story. It made them so grateful that we live in a country where we can learn as girls, and not only that, but in a country where we can still homeschool, which is a big deal because there's countries where you can't. So it just kind of put things into perspective for them. The other ones, the last ones that I have, Understood Betsy. This is a precious read. I read it with my daughter who's in 9th grade this year. She did it last year when she was in 8th grade, and she really loved it, and it was just a very sweet read. Really, really special. And then finally we have the Roman Diary, the journal of Ilona, young slave girl who was on a voyage from Greece to Egypt to Rome, and it follows her story of when she was captured by pirates and auctioned off as a slave. And it's a great read for that time period. If you're studying ancient Rome, we did this a couple of years ago. I would say it was about 4 years ago, and the age group is 9 to 12. And we found it to be a decent age group for my kids at the time. I think that I had middle schoolers and an elementary schooler at the time, and it was very appropriate. So that is all I have for today for read alouds, but I will be doing more read aloud videos in the future because it is a passion of mine, and there's so many different categories. I want to do a YWAM video of all of the different YWAMs that we've done, a historical video for people who are studying the French Revolution. I want to do one for World War I and World War II. There's just a plethora of different categories that I'm going to go ahead and try to film as the weeks come upon us. And also we're getting into holiday season, which is my favorite time of the year. And one of my most favorite things to do in our home is to read books that are centered around Christmas, and a plethora of them. We probably have close to 25 picture books at this time. We have different read alouds that we read at Christmas time, some really special, sweet reads that are very, very meaningful to our family, and it's part of our tradition. And if you've never started that tradition. I highly recommend it. It is so sweet to just pull out those books every year, and they're like old friends. You know, my kids love it. I love it. It makes everything more festive, and there's just so many great stories out there. I feel like you could just never exhaust the amount of good books there are. But so I love sharing these things with you all. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps me to know if these are videos that you enjoy. So I hope you have a great day and happy reading.